being excellent at pricing is just your entry chips to the game.
Welcome back to Outstanding Claims with the PriceWriter. Today, we have Graham Ross of 12 Squared fame with us. You'll tell from my big grin throughout how pleased I am to interview Graham. He is one of the greats of GI pricing, who is at the vanguard of pricing analysis before most people even knew what that is. Let's hear from Graham. Hello, Graham, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Jeremy. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you as well. I'm so pleased to have you on. The first thing I'd like to ask you is, how did you get where you are today?
Can I go back a long time, Jeremy? I graduated in statistics from University College and was looking for jobs. And one of my lecturers approached me as a former student from the same university. He's an actuary looking to recruit a statistician. So I went and talked to him, and yeah. So I ended up joining the Pearl Assurance, which doesn't exist anymore. But anyway, as a sort of statistical analyst to help them on their processing a motor insurance book. If I keep it short, there for about 10 years. For the last 3 or 4 was heading up that team. What at the time was probably a few actuarial students, another statistician, and a couple of clerical staff, because we were still in the days of a lot of manual work.
I think we still are sometimes.
Yeah. But all that 10 years had been on pricing, predominantly motor insurance, but also involved into home insurance. Because again, at that time, home insurance had been flat priced. It was just the early days of introducing some differential rating, predominantly based on geography. I then joined KPMG, who have a actuarial practice, initially recruited with a view to helping them create presence in personalised pricing. But the timing didn't quite work out because end of the 80s, early 90s, we had major storms in the UK.
Yeah.
The North Sea oil platform Piper Alpha blew up. There was the explosion of US liability claims around pollution, asbestos. All those things hit the market. So I found myself doing far more claims reserving work and reinsurance type work than I'd anticipated. But still that helped with experience and exposure to things I hadn't been exposed to in my personal lines career up until that point. And then after about 4 years there, I was fortunate. My career has consisted of lots of fortunate things. I was a former colleague of mine from the Pearl Assurance was working at Direct Line. And he rang me one evening and said, "We're looking to expand. To recruit someone. You interested in joining us?" So I went down to Croydon, met some of the senior people, and they offered me a job and I was keen to join them. So that was the start of 13 years there. So I was recruited to head up the statistics team. Because I think one of the things that we'll perhaps talk about as we go on is the role of statistical analysis in insurance is broader than just pricing. Pricing's a key part of that. And that's probably one of the drivers of recruiting analytical people. But certainly in a direct operation like Direct Line, there was a need for and a desire in the management team to use statistics to drive the business and use data to drive the business. So a whole host of things about how you organize and operate a call center efficiently, or what is your claims performance, was part of what I dealt with in that period, and must have been reasonably successful because they changed management. So I was in senior management positions for the last 5 or 6 years. And then I set up on my own some time ago, now 17, 18 years ago, as a freelance consultant. Because I got to a point where I just felt I had enough experience to do that, and it gave me a bit more flexibility about my time. And I know it's a cliche about work-life balances and all those things. At that time, that was working for me because by that time I was into my 50s. So I've had, 17 years working as a freelance consultant. I know I worked with you when I was doing that interim role at AXA. I had a few interim roles as underwriting directors or pricing directors for large and small insurers and pricing projects. And now I'm on the gradual decline to go into full-time retirement. It's coming soon. It's not quite sure when. Still got one or two clients I do a little bit of work. So
I
that
think,
nutshell was covering 45 years, which we can talk more about.
what did you find the biggest challenge about going and being a consultant, so being your own boss and your own leader?
I'm not sure. I felt at the time that clearly having that CV of having worked at the Direct Line would be attractive to a lot of people. And I was also fortunate that a lot of senior people from Direct Line, like myself, had moved on and I was still in touch with them. So I had a strong network. So I was reasonably confident I could get some work. And I also was harking back to that. I had 4 years at KPMG. So I knew what being a consultant was like and what it entailed as opposed to being an employee. So I think the biggest challenge was deciding what sort of work I'd do
Yeah.
and how I would do it. Because I think it's clear if you're like I was intended to be, just a sort of a one person enterprise, there's no way you could compete with big players. I'm a big consumer, KPMG and I don't know about all the actuarial specialists.
You must have encountered resistance to the sort of statistical route of setting prices. And I think a lot of people still encounter that now. What would you say was the kind of biggest challenges there?
I think there's this tension between, and again, apologies to any underwriters I offend in the next few minutes, but I did love you all. But was this view that I still am at the core of me, which is fact-based, look at the data and decide what's going on, gets you into a tension with people who believe and are experts and believe
Yeah.
in things. There's almost at the one extreme, there's me who says, I know nothing apart from what the data tells me. You've got other guys I'll characterize as underwriters who think I've got years of experience as a consequence that I know these things. I think at the end of the day, it's more about trying to get to the point where you understand their expertise and their points of view. I'll give you an example I wasn't that close to, but it's not that confidential. But way back in the early 90s, car manufacturers started to introduce things which we call hot hatchbacks, and they appealed to young drivers. This
Yeah.
is the box, was it the Volkswagen called GTI was the kind of,
And my sister had a 2 litre black one, actually. It went like a rocket.
so that's the classic hot hatch, small car, very and powerful. You put that together with a young person, you can imagine there's a significant risk for the insurance company there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The underwriters, from their experience, put two and two together. I said, that's an issue. We need to address it before people like myself who are really relying on statistics and data would realize that. So in that story, you're alerted to that. So you start, maybe based on their expertise, you do things and then you might track it and adjust for it. Whereas if you're waiting for the data, it can be too late.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's where I accept there's that ability to do that. The frustration is when, if you have done that, you start to get data out and it's maybe not as bad as they thought it was going to be. It's that sort of trying to convince people to look at the data rather than rely on their judgment.
Yeah.
So hopefully that sort of, I haven't got an answer. There's no magic one.
No.
I got to sort of resolve this difference of opinion between, if you like, experts and analysts.
No, that's right. There is a balance, and I'm not really sure anyone's quite got that balance right. Yeah. I felt rather stuck in the middle at times, funnily enough, because I like the expert analysis and I like the knowledge, and I think that's important, but I am a statistician.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like the statisticians think I'm too close to the expert judgment side, and the underwriters think I'm too close to the statistical side, so I'm stuck in between.
I mean, I think in my brief recap of my career, I've had analysts and underwriters report to me, and at various times we reported to them as part of the management team.
And what would the kind of most interesting thing about being at Direct Line during its real scale up phase when it was taking over.
That was the early 90s. I think there's a bit which is probably reflects my bias, is that what impressed me when I arrived, having come from KPMG and having met lots of companies who I consulted, is there was a management team. They were very clear about what they were trying to do. And back to my role and one of the reasons they recruited me, they recognized the importance of data and analysis and understanding performance of the account. Put those together. I think the other thing that helped them enormously is I think too many of the established insurers dismiss them as being, they're some flash in the pan, or they'll only ever, direct insurers will only ever appeal to one small specialist niche. Okay. And I think also what was going on in the pricing in that time helped accompany Direct Line a lot.
Yeah.
Because it was a time, I was talked a while ago about my time at KPMG was absorbed by the industry responding to all sorts of catastrophes, whether that's natural weather. So there was a lot of pressure in the early 90s for the big players to rebuild their profitability, restore their kind of balance sheet.
Yeah.
So they were looking to make profits, which created the gap that allowed Direct Line to grow and be profitable. Because one thing I'll dismiss, Direct Line was an excellent company. Let's not forget that. That's probably still is, although it's a while since I worked. But at the time I worked, it was an excellent company. I'm not going to dispute that. But equally, its ability to be as successful as it was in the context in which it was operating in the early 90s through to the start of this millennium, when a lot of the competition, for various reasons, was slow out the blocks, and then probably didn't realize there's more to it than just flying a few ads on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the combination. So they did have a good environment, but actually they were very good at what they did as well.
It was a big market environment was favorable.
Yeah.
We, because I was part of the team at that point, got our act together and exploited that opportunity.
Yeah. And what would you say, Graham, is your mission for general insurance pricing?
I'll turn that around because I'm at the end of my career. So I'll answer it as what was my mission when I joined as a young lad, relatively young. I think that the point you've got from Sol answers already is I was driven by the fact this should be a sort of fact-based approach. Okay. That was always there. Use the data to understand the risk and therefore how you price. As I got more experience, I think I then realized it has to be a process, not a sort of, not a one-off project to build in some fancy model. It's about process. I think that came more and more apparent when I was at Direct Line, because I inherited things when I joined, but part of what myself and the team I built up did was get a process that worked. In terms of reviewing the data and identifying opportunities and implementing changes to exploit those opportunities. So there's that argument. It's a process, not a project. Okay. Fact-based, driven by data. At the point I made a while ago, sometimes you recognize the expertise of underwriters or claims managers who can point you in the direction of what to look for in the data, or things that might not be yet apparent in the data that you might want to take a judgment on and then respond to as you can. I think the other thing for me personally, is it has to be a replicable process.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think where that got me into discussions with operational staff is around that replicable thing meant I was always saying, let's drive out referrals where for some reason you can't provide a quote of the based system, however that rule is implemented. And you have to have somebody come in and make a judgment, because everything I've seen and stuff is that judgment adds more variability.
Yeah.
And because I'm, again, coming back to my statistical training, one of the things that influenced me a lot was the sort of stuff I learned post degrees, and that is around the whole thinking around quality management. So policy management, which was quite trendy in the 90s, not sure it's still today, but and that was at the heart of it, driven by the idea you control a process by driving out variability. So that
Yeah.
influenced me a lot in terms of how I thought about pricing as a process. And sources of variability are things like referrals, where you've got each underwriter and may come up with a different decision. I was always very resistant to the idea that you give call center agents or other people the ability to negotiate with customers.
Yeah.
Again, introduces additional variability. And operational people and marketing people had a different view. And that was again one of the discussions we had. But
Yeah.
that informed if you looked at what my mission was, it was to drive variability out of the pricing decision.
Yeah. That is excellent.
In terms of different risks justify a different price, it's more for this customer, they will get that price.
Yeah, I understand. So it's understanding the customer's attributes and getting a consistent price and a consistent decision when that happens.
The other thing in terms of that mission or I learned is that that with the betters process, it's not a static process. You're effectively in an arms race.
Yeah.
When I was, again, I don't want to get into old stories, but when I started, the settings, myself, some lecturers years, virtually no computer power. So lots of clerical and manual stuff and desk calculator. A handful of rating factors. And we never made any money. Okay. Which we tried as we could, but some other things we'll talk about. Today, huge amount of computing power. I know insurers employ huge numbers of analysts, actuaries, all sorts of
Yeah.
people. They
Yeah.
have much larger and more complicated data structures and pricing models, external data coming in to support. They still don't make any money. So that's
No, it's true.
flip of good. Basically, you make money in insurance, you could be better than the rest. It's the same in any business, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is everybody's progressed. So now I think being excellent at pricing is just your entry chips to the game.
Yes.
If you can't do that, then don't enter the game. I think then, but that's, if you like, what my experience always is taught me, that's just a necessary but not sufficient route to profitability.
Yeah.
Because you still have to have some point of difference, some competitive advantage to if you're going to achieve return that's better than market average.
That's right. You need something that customers care about.
Mission for insurance is can't do it in isolation. You've got to try and understand your competitors and the market in which you're operating. And lead to that, you get into questions like balance of power. If you think of it, again, you probably expect this given my pedigree is very much direct insurance, because most of the clients I've worked with as a consultant in the last 15 or so years of being in the direct space is what the balance of the power between the underwriter and whether it's broker or the intermediary that sits between the customer, or how much power the customer got.
Mm-hmm.
My view at the moment is in the last 10 or so years, balance of power has shifted to 4 or 5 big aggregators.
Graham, what would you see as your vision for the future of insurance pricing?
I said, I'm on my way out. So there's not really something I've thought a great deal about. What I think I will do is turn it around and say, I'm coming to the end of my career, but hopefully there's people listening to this at the start of their career.
Yep.
And they're probably thinking, what's the old man on about? In terms of the challenges that are going to have to be met over the next few years for people involved in pricing and general insurance. When we talk about it, we tend to think about motor because that's where inevitably most of the effort is, because that's the most competitive,
the
most complex in terms of understanding risks in the certain personal life space. I think there's one immediate thing which echoes back to when I started my career is how do you price in a period of high and uncertain inflation? If anyone's involved in insurance knows it can take years for personal injury claims to be resolved. And I'll say they're settled at if you like, the prevailing cost of living or prevailing pricing. So how do you set a price today when a large chunk of your paying's up, it's set up for 4 or 5 years' time? And that, I think, can make a big difference. How you set about solving that, I'm not sure you can solve it. You can just come up with your best judgment. Has probably just as much impact, or probably more impact on the prices you set than those last few tweaks you do as you look at the sort of three-way interaction between some
Yep.
corner of your pricing table.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that sort of, how do you do that? How do you get plugged into the data that's available to help you understand how inflation might unfold over the coming years and what that could mean to you in terms of price? Because I suppose on the other side of it, and there's always the argument that you've got a bit of hedging to do with your investment portfolio to business, or the claims reserves you're holding should give you some hedging
Yeah.
inflation, but it's not perfect.
Okay.
So there's that issue is immediately there. I think this point I made about the arms race, that's going to carry on. I'll admit I'm ignorant about the analytical methods underlying artificial intelligence and machine learning. But it feels like they, if they haven't already, they're coming into the way people trying to build pricing models. So
Yep.
that arms race and carry on. Being a bit of a traditional taught statistics a long time ago, I do get concerned that at the end of the day, are some of these models you're building just, if you like, modeling random noise?
Yep.
You with me?
Yeah.
In terms of all this sophistication and pricing model you can build, and a huge number of factors you've got available to understand the risk, I'd still haven't resolved it. How and where do you draw a line between getting into more and more detail and then recognizing actually a lot of that detail is, as I'll describe it, just your modeling noise?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of evidence and anecdotal that if you look at the huge differences in prices that insurers charge, and it's not consistent, it's not as if one insurer is consistently more expensive than another. It suggests that there's some of that already there. Noise in the models they're building to reflect. So I think there's a challenge there of how do you use all this technology, but where do you stop? I think the other thing I'm thinking through, I think this sort of customer duty's just been introduced, hasn't it?
Yes.
Sort of rolls over from treating customer fairly. You go back a few years, you've got the gender directive, which I know is EU-based, restricted your ability to differentiate by gender. You've got the stuff that's coming recently around new business and renewal pricing. So I suspect, pricing in the future in personal lines will face more of those sorts of pressures.
I would think so too.
Well, the society, government, be sort of transparent and equitable.
Yeah.
And that's built into the customer duty thing, isn't it? About, prove you're producing good value or fair value for customers.
You need to prove a link between the price and the cost to manufacture.
How do you reconcile all that? Because
Yeah.
in times when I was involved in more detailed pricing, that wasn't a constraint. There were constraints on pricing, but not to the extent you have today of like external agencies limiting what you can and can't do or insisting on a degree of transparency. That I think would be a challenge. And I think the other point, because this was a big blind spot to me during my career. Again, you'll gather this stats and maths, so I'm probably very rational. And maybe I'm not probably very rational. Is this I've never really understood till recent, this sort of customer behavior, getting into the psychology of it, how they respond to the different ways you present prices, product features to them. This feels like from pricing analysts, there's something we've missed there. As well as analyzing all the sort of risk data to understand the relative performance of claims, have you invested enough time in understanding how customers react to different ways we position the proposition in front of them?
Yeah.
And I know people explore whether you include this add-on or price it separately, defaults, things like that, and how you pitch excesses. But it feels like this, if you looked at the balance of effort, huge amount of effort into understanding risk prices, doesn't seem to be the same or proportional effort, certainly in my experience, No, I'm a little bit out there into this sort of using the same ideas to understand customer behavior and the psychology and dynamics of it, how best to put your price in front of them.
I think that's right. I think there is a lot more to do there.
Because I think by doing, if you tell me wander off into a bit of a story about that, which is probably more about if you change the proposition, you change customers' behavior.
Yeah.
No, no claims bonus protections now well established, but way back in the early 80s when it was first introduced, Project I worked on was trying to work out, market's moving that way, we've got to introduce it, how do we promise it? So I approached it from a point of view. The customer's got 5 years, no claims.
Yep.
Look at the kind of different paths they could take over the next 5 to 6 years. Next year, they may or may not have a claim. So you get to like a random walk.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you can look at over the next 5 years, this is roughly the average price we collect. So we need to work back and say, if we can protect the no claims, we need to collect the same average price. All right, brilliant piece of analysis. What we didn't realize, we should have done perhaps, is if you change the rules, customers change.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think most industry learned that if you now protect the no claims, customers are more likely to put in smaller claims.
Yeah.
Eligible now. So that analytical approach that didn't appreciate if you change something, customers' behavior changed.
Yeah, that's right. I think excess is an area where we rather struggle. If we leave the compulsory excesses, the customers tend to then behave differently.
And that is an interesting one because I only recently thought about, this is more about voluntary excesses. Okay? And again, it's probably dominated by my thinking on motor, but it applies to other products as well, is if you put a voluntary excessive from a customer with a price associated against it, whether they accept the price or not, tells you something about their attitude to risk.
Yeah.
Their view of how likely they are to claim.
Yeah.
And you end up, again, this was something in my early career, and I'm looking at introducing higher excesses or changing discounts. And it was again approaching from like, well, look at the distribution of claims. If you chop it off here, you've lost this much.
Yeah.
It wasn't. You say that was saving us 3% of the claim.
Yeah.
It inevitably seemed to save you more.
Yeah.
Because the people who took that offer were self-selecting to be the ones who felt they were safer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So even though I'm driven by analytics and said at the start on fact-based, what the one bit I probably didn't appreciate enough early on in career is if you change the rules, customers change their behavior.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to monitor that sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The very fact that somebody is changing their excess shows they're a certain type of person who already knows probably more about insurance than the average.
Or view of their risk or
their own risk. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? What was the question again? So, about vision for the future, which I'm denying I've got one, which has some challenges and things that I think will be relevant. I think we ticked them off, really.
Is there anything you'd like to add?
I suppose I started off by saying I stumbled into this. I effectively got a message from my former lecturer saying, get in touch with this guy because he's looking to recruit a statistician. And I chose to go there because it's in central London, paid a reasonable wage and all the rest of it. But I have enjoyed my career as a sort of pricing analyst and spent a few years in Liverpool as a sort of more of a general manager.
Yes.
And director. No, it has been fun. It's been challenging. And I still think all these things are challenging. I think still for people who are interested in statistics and analysis and actually translating that into action.
Yep.
This is a space to be.
But that's an interesting point. What would you say is the thing that people should be learning? If they wanted a career that's fulfilling like yours, that reached a senior level, gave them a lot of fulfillment, what should they be learning and doing?
You do ask some difficult questions. Yes, my own experience and my own character. I think if you're an analyst, whatever you call yourself, pricing actuary, analyst, I was called a statistician, but that seems to fall out face. But sorry, back to the point is you've got to try and understand problem your clients want to address, whether your client's a manager or a senior manager or you're a consultant. And as well as listen to what they ask you to do, think about the problem they're trying to solve. And maybe think about how you can help them address that beyond perhaps the narrow remit you've given them.
Yeah.
Again, it's a bit caricature. Often, particularly as a junior price analyst, you'll get asked by somebody, kind of gives me a table or a graph that shows me how conversion rate varies by the age of customer or something. If you understand business and that, they might think, why is he asking me that? Or she's asking me that? And you can anticipate that and do the bits of analysis, get you beyond producing a table into, okay, it's pretty clear that this segment has been behaving oddly. And therefore, I think we should drill into it a bit more. So it's almost, just try and understand the real question you've been asked, which means you have to understand the business and the context. And that's sort of things I talked about one ago. You understand how the company you're part of is trying to be successful. Like market context, it's easier to answer those questions. So maybe, so I don't want to sound off, but there's a bit when you've got to, if you're an analyst, take your blinkers off and stop looking at data and just try and understand the environment in which your business is operating.
Yeah, not just
the
focus. Yeah, not just in the detail, but actually thinking about the bigger picture as well.
And how, I think one of those things I've felt when I was working, and this is a challenge I had when I've advising clients, working people younger, is I often had this point of saying, we're going to open the call center tomorrow morning. What prices are we going to charge? So, to same as we did today, or is there something better we can? And that was a kind of mindset I brought to it. So, back to again, sorry, sometimes I'm lecturing people. Telling me you're going to run a 6-month project to collect all this data and analyze it is fine, but is there something I could do better tomorrow? Prices when we open the shop.
Yeah. I'm going to borrow that actually. That's very good.
Because I think there's this, again, I'm not claiming any great insight here because it's a bit of a cliche, but too often, people, what's the expression? But basically, it's good is the enemy of perfect. I think that's we can't do that because it's not perfect. But I'd say, no, it's better than what we're doing today.
Yeah.
And that's
always advancing.
Maybe a challenge again for analysts and pricing people. There's a danger you get sucked into trying to come up with a perfect pricing structure, which I doubt exists. But you're trying to get close to it. I think if you can come up with structures that you think get you closer, how do you implement that, learn from it, refine? So to get yourself into a mindset, this is an iterative process.
Yeah. That's it. What perfect today won't be perfect tomorrow anyway. So it's always got to be
improving back into this arms race mentality. You have to keep it.
Absolutely.
Only improve when you try something.
Graham, thank you ever so much for your time today. It's been absolutely brilliant hearing from you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much. You have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.